Chapter 7. As Sunday morning dawned, Amanda woke excited for the day. She hoped she would love this church and be able to call it her home away from home church. Jade snoozed across the room, and Amanda wondered what time she usually got up. She seemed to always be sleeping till at least 9 or 10 in the morning. Slipping out of bed as quietly as she could, Amanda gathered her toiletries and Sunday wear and headed to the showers. After her shower, Amanda returned to the room to drop off her toiletries and grab her Bible. Jade hadn't changed position, and Amanda smiled at the deepness of her sleep. She had often wished she could sleep like that, through anything, but once the alarm went off, she was awake for good. Even on days she didn't set the alarm, Amanda could rarely sleep past 8. It probably had to do with growing up with younger siblings who were often up at the crack of dawn and rarely quiet. Amanda glanced at her watch, and though she had a few minutes before Caleb was due to meet her downstairs, she decided to wait in the lobby for him so she wouldn't wake Jade. Tucking the Bible under her arm, she grabbed a light jacket and headed downstairs. "You look beautiful," Caleb said as she descended the steps. He was early. A blush spread across her face at the unexpected compliment. "Thank you," Amanda managed. "Are you ready?" He held out his hand, and after Amanda took it, led the way outside. The drive to the church was short, but Amanda was very glad Caleb was driving, as the church was in the newly renovated downtown area of the city, where all the loops and overpasses converged. She didn't like driving in traffic anyway, but driving in congested areas when she didn't know where she was going was a huge fear. As Caleb pulled into the crowded parking lot, sweat broke out on Amanda's palms. The church was huge, and the parking lot, which appeared to hold close to 200 parking spaces, was nearly full. How many people attended this church? Amanda's church back home had been on the smaller side, only about 100 people in each service, and she rather liked it that way. It allowed her to get to know people in the church. After circling the lot 3 times, Caleb finally managed to snag a spot as another car vacated it. It was at the very back of the lot, so they had a large piece of real estate to cross to get to the front doors. Amanda was glad she had chosen comfortable shoes. A slew of people stood at the front entrance handing out brochures as Amanda and Caleb approached. Amanda took one, tucking it in her Bible to peruse when they sat down. The foyer was expansive, but the doors in front of them opened into a huge auditorium. Amanda held tighter to Caleb's hand as they joined the stream of people filtering into the auditorium. Not generally a claustrophobic person, the sheer number of people in this building unnerved Amanda. Was this a church or a sporting event? As Caleb led the way to 2 empty seats in the middle section, Amanda's eyes scanned the room. The auditorium, which looked like it could hold 1,000 people, was already filling up. "It's so huge," she said as they sat down. "So much bigger than my old church." "It will be fine," Caleb assured her. Out of the corner of her eye, Amanda saw Caleb glance at his watch and wondered if he had somewhere more important to be. Deciding she could ask him later, she pulled the brochure out of her Bible, expecting a small bulletin like her church back home had. Instead, it was almost like a college catalog. Every page was filled with a block of information and colorful pictures. Amanda turned the pages, trying to find their belief statement, but none of the pages seemed to have it. What they did have was a choir, theater, puppet shows, Bible studies, pizza nights, game nights, workout classes, and much more. This church had a lot going on and something for everyone, but it was so much Amanda wasn't even sure what to focus on. When the music started, she looked up. She hadn't even noticed the entire band on the raised stage. As the music grew louder, it echoed throughout the room. The main lights dimmed and spots lit up the stage. Though upbeat and fun, Amanda found the music hard to worship to, as it felt more like a concert than a worship service. The music continued for half an hour before a man started speaking. He was 10 minutes into his sermon before Amanda realized he was even the pastor, as he was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. While she believed God didn't care what people wore, she had always attended a church where the pastor wore a suit, or at least dress slacks. The image of the pastor looking more like he belonged at a beach than in a church created an odd dichotomy in Amanda's head. Amanda snuck another glance at Caleb to see if he was having the same issue she was. His gaze was focused on something to the left. Discreetly, Amanda craned her head to see what had grabbed his attention, but all she could see was a group of college-aged people. Perhaps he was just scanning the crowd to see if he knew anyone. Returning her attention to the pastor at the front, Amanda opened her Bible and forced her eyes to focus on the words on the page. As long as she didn't look up, she could follow the message without being distracted. It turned out to be a good one, all about keeping the focus on God. As the pastor ended, the band took the stage again and played for another 10 minutes. Then the service was over. "What did you think?" Caleb asked on the walk back to his truck. Amanda pursed her lips as she thought. "The message was good, but I think the church is a little too big for me. I felt a little lost." She had, in fact, felt like a tiny fish in a gigantic pond. And while everyone had seemed very nice, she couldn't imagine calling the place her home. "Right? Me too," he agreed, as he opened the passenger door for her. "I even had a hard time concentrating because it felt more like a concert than a church service at some points." Amanda smiled up at him as she climbed in her seat, and he walked around to the driver's side door. She hadn't been sure Caleb had even been paying attention, but it seemed that he was on the same wavelength she was. "We can try a different one next week," she said as she strapped her seatbelt. "I'll do a little research online for a smaller one. I also want to find one that lists their statement of faith, because not all churches believe the same things, unfortunately, and I couldn't find one at that church." "Oh yeah, that's definitely important." He started the engine and backed out of the parking space. "What, is your statement of faith? I'm just curious if mine matches yours." "Well, I believe that Jesus is the Son of God, sent to earth to die for our sins. I believe He is the only path to salvation, and that we must have a relationship with Him. I also believe in the Trinity and the pre-tribulation rapture." "I'm sorry, I agree with everything else you said, but what's the pre-tribulation rapture?" Caleb glanced at her before returning his attention to the road. "Well, the rapture is when Christ will return and call all the believers back to heaven. My family and I believe that will happen before the tribulation, but some people believe it will happen midway through the tribulation. That is called mid-tribulation. Then there's post-tribulation, the belief that we won't be taken until the end of the tribulation. I just can't imagine that God would leave us to suffer through all 7 years. I prefer to believe He will take us up to heaven before the worst hits." "I definitely like your stance better," he agreed. "I, have some things to do this afternoon, but I'd love to hear more about the rapture tomorrow. I'm not sure my old church ever taught on it." "Of course, I'd be happy to discuss it with you whenever." Amanda smiled at the interest Caleb was showing. There had been a few signs that made her wonder if he were a believer, but it appeared maybe he was and just hadn't attended a church that taught as much as hers did. They pulled into the dorm parking lot, and Caleb placed a quick kiss on her lips before Amanda waved goodbye and headed into the dorm. "How was it?" Jade asked as she entered the room. She was awake, but she hadn't dressed. She was still laying in the bed, sporting a cut-off shirt and a pair of shorts. "It was okay." Amanda returned her Bible to the nightstand and sat on the bed, folding her legs beneath her. "The message was nice, but the church was too big for my liking." "How did Caleb like it?" Jade asked. Amanda tilted her head at the question. Why did Jade care if Caleb liked church? "I think he felt the same, but he agreed to try another church with me next week." Amanda stood and crossed to the closet to change out of her dress and into more comfortable clothes. He didn't seem the church-going type," she said. "What do you mean?" Amanda asked, turning on Jade. "You barely even met him." "It was just a feeling." Jade held her hands up in defense. "You know him better, so I'm sure I'm wrong." Amanda bit her lip as she returned to the bed. She wanted to tell Jade she was wrong, but she wondered as she replayed the morning in her mind. Caleb had seemed less engaged, and his lack of knowledge about the rapture was interesting. Maybe he had never gone to church. But if that was the case, why would he say that he had?